How's it going, everybody? My name is Brian Beck, and this is for Aviation 325. This is our discussion on Kgso to Klyh. So let's talk about this trip. We're going from Piedmont International up to Lynchburg. Trip is pretty basic VFR. The weather looks great, aside from it being pretty cold. High pressure, good visibility, very light winds. Of course, we'll get into the environment portion in a moment. We're taking this trip solo. We're ferrying a newly refurbished aircraft back from Piedmont back to our flight school that we someday hope to work for. So we're trying to impress the boss, but this is a relatively easy trip. You're going to be doing it solo, which is good. You're not flying with your boss, so you can make good judgment calls without the stress of what's the guy next to me thinking. But we're going from Piedmont International up to Lynchburg. It's a trip of about 89 miles, I believe. 82 miles, sorry. Pretty low terrain around the area, so we could do as low as 3,500 feet northeast bound if we wanted to. We're not given winds aloft in this scenario, but I'd probably choose between 35 or 5,500 feet. Pretty low terrain around. If you look at satellite imagery of the route, if you go direct, there's tons of places to land. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So the pilot, in this case, you're a commercial pilot. You're working towards your CFI, so presumably you've got at least 200 hours. You've had a couple different DPEs tell you and certify that you make good judgment calls in the airplane. Hopefully you think you do too. There's going to be a couple things to work through on this flight, some things that pose some red flags. So you're going to have your wits about you as you go. But you're reasonably experienced, you're working towards your CFI, and this should be a pretty easy trip for you. The aircraft in question is a Cherokee. Doesn't say specifically which model it is, but we'll assume it's an older 70s Archer or something like that with an 0360, so a carbureted engine. Engine's just been overhauled. It just got a new interior in the plane and a brand new panel. Now, we're not given any details on what that panel is, but it's probably some modern avionics. Hopefully you're already familiar with them. And if you're not, you're going to want to take some time to familiarize yourself with what's been put in the panel. How does it work? How do you use it? Using a brand new GPS can be pretty complex. Trying to plug in, procedures and a flight plan in general, if you're not familiar with it, can take some time. So yeah, it's got some new bells and whistles on board that you want to be familiar with. It's got a brand new engine. If you look at NTSB statistics, you find that most engine failures happen within the first 200 hours, I believe it is, of an overhaul. So you're going to want to be mindful of that. The good thing about this is we've got extremely long runways at both airports, but most importantly, the departure point. So you're going to have plenty of time to decide whether or not you want to abort that takeoff. If you're not making your rotation speed of probably 55 knots in this old Cherokee, within the first, 2,000 feet, you're probably going to want to pull the throttle back and get off the runway. And the good part about taking off out of Piedmont is you probably are still going to have 6,000 feet of runway left to stop on, which is great. Again, it's a new engine, so you're going to want to be very cautious, very mindful of what it's doing at all times. Keep your eyes on the oil pressure, the oil temperatures. Make sure it's making the power that it should be, and make sure you're following any break-in procedures that new engine might have come with. The environment for the day is pretty darn good weather, really high pressure. It's cold. It's clear in a million according to the weather that we're given. But the main issue there is that it's cold. And I'm assuming we've got an old carbureted 0360 on the airplane. So if you get near any moisture whatsoever, or even not, you need to be worried about carb ice the whole time, along with other things, other forms of ice. Something to be mindful of. You got to be ready on your carb heat, ready to throw that on at any moment. External pressures for this flight. You want to get it done because you want to go show the boss that you can handle any situation that you're given. But that also means you want to show the boss that you make good decisions. So let's say you get on the runway and it's a little sluggish to get off the ground. You don't think the engine's making as good a power. There's two sides of that pressure right there. Is one, you want to make sure you get the flight done, so you might push it a little further than you normally would, so you can try and complete that mission for your new boss. Or you're going to want to show them that you make good judgment and you said, this is not making the proper power, I'm going to abort this takeoff, and that looks good. I suppose it depends on who you work for. Did you get the job done? Cool. Did you make a good judgment call? Cool. It depends on who that guy is. Is he going to like either one? That's pretty much it. That's our flight. Pretty simple flight. Couple weather conditions to be concerned about, and the fact that you're flying a brand new airplane. It needs to be babied the whole time. Really paid attention to. Make sure nothing's wrong with it. But that's it. Thanks, guys.